So, Marcus, give me a little bit of background. How did you get involved with the people who made this DVD? What sort of dawned on you about the moon landings that you were prepared to support this expose of apparent fake moon landings?
Well, like many people, I was around and watched, well, not watched, I got up in the middle of the night to watch the television broadcast live from the moon.
Me too.
We were told.
Me too.
And for many years after that, from 1969, for the best part of 20 years, I thought, oh, wonderful, great achievement. Well done, America. You've done it. Kennedy said, do it. Well, you did it. And then I heard somebody talk about it. It was actually an American guy I heard actually talk about the moon landings didn't actually happen the way that we were told. And I thought, well, this is a bit weird. Now, I'd been trained as a photographer. I'd used Hasselblad cameras, and I realized...
Which is the make of cameras used on the moon by the...
They use Hasselblad cameras on the moon. And I thought, well, I'll have a look and see if I can prove this guy wrong, because, you know, I like the idea of man landing on the moon.
Yeah.
Now, the more I looked at it, the more I found, no, there are real problems here. But then I heard that David Percy and Mary Bennett were putting a DVD together. Well, initially they were writing the book, Dark Moon. And by the way, the title is very interesting. The title refers to the fact that if Apollo 13 had actually landed without going off course and exploding and all the rest of it, if they'd actually landed where they were supposed to land, when they were supposed to land, the landing site would have been in darkness.
Really?
Hence Dark Moon. Now,
well, that's a bit of an error then, unless, of course, they never planned to land there in the first place.
Well, I think you got it there. I think your news flash, by the way, is closer to the truth than many people would like to admit. Just because we haven't heard it officially from NASA doesn't mean to say it's not real.
It was just a bit of fun, but...
It was a bit of fun.
One day, maybe. Anyway, we're going to show some clips from this film, and we're going to show some stills, which are collated by somebody called Jack White, who's a researcher on the moon landings, whose stuff can be found on owlis.com, AULIS.com, which is also the home site for this film. So if we can go to the first moving clip, please, the Bob Dylan one, as I call it, which I think is...
Even in a breeze, sure.
How many times can a man turn his head and pretend that he just doesn't see? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Yes, and how many deaths will it take till he knows that too many people have died? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
Well, Marcus, before we talk about this clip that we've just seen, I just wanted to go to a website which is called badastronomy.com and read what they say about it, because they try and say that, yes, the moon landings happened exactly as described by NASA. And they say here, of course a flag can wave in a vacuum. The astronaut is rotating the pole on which the flag is mounted, trying to get it to stay up. So they're saying there's a bit of tension in the pole, and those clips, by the way, were from several moon missions, weren't they? And they all seem to be waving in the wind, bizarrely. So what's your take on that, Marcus?
Well, I'm a bit ambivalent about it, because there are certainly a lot of people who will say, oh, look at the flag waving on the wind. That means that when they filmed that bit, they left the hangar doors open, implying it was filmed on Earth. Now, there are two sides to this. Yes, they were filmed on Earth. There were simulation runs done of every mission in real time, and they were done on Earth, and somebody may have left a hangar door open. Whether what we were watching was one of those pieces of film is another matter altogether. It is true to say that the flag moves only when somebody is near to or touching the pole. And I think it is, that's why I'm ambivalent about it, because it does appear to be fairly conclusive that there is somebody touching it and moving it.
They're quite impressive movements, though, aren't they? They're not just a little bit of shake or something. They're like, you know, flapping about.
Oh, it's certainly flapping about. But, and this is a point that not many people are fully aware of, that every single mission was filmed and photographed here on Earth. It was called a training exercise. It was called a simulation.
Are you suggesting then the possibility that the moon landings did take place exactly as described by NASA, but maybe there was a problem with the film, it didn't come out, or there was technical issues with trying to film without additional lighting, for instance, and they used the stuff that they filmed on Earth and just didn't say? Is that a possibility, do you think?
It's a remote possibility, because the implication behind that, i.e. that man got to the moon, as we were told by NASA, that man got out, walked around, took photographs, came back, just as NASA said happened, and they got the films back. Oh, look, they're all fogged for the radiation, we can't use them, or they didn't take the right photographs. That implies they got to the moon. And I'm saying they didn't get to the moon. They didn't even get out of Earth orbit. That what we've been watching and the photographs that we have been shown by NASA for the last 39.5 years, because it's the 40th anniversary next year of Apollo 11, July next year.
Yes.
The photographs and the films that we have watched, I say, were taken here on Earth during the training and simulation exercises. There was no secret about it. Lots of people knew it was happening. Lots of people knew that these events were being recorded, because if you're going to fly in your jumbo jet, you want to make sure that the pilot knows what to do when all 4 engines shut out at 30,000 feet, but he's done it in a simulator and not with you up in the air. Okay. That's what it's the obvious thing to do. They did simulations. There are pictures of the simulators. There are pictures...
Well, you would expect them to do a few exercises, wouldn't you? They wouldn't just get in a spaceship and fly off to the moon.
Absolutely not. They train very extensively.
And they film the training.
And they film the training.
That's also fairly natural, so they can say, oh, we didn't do that very well.
And also, they filmed a model of the moon with a camera on a track so that it would appear, when projected outside the simulator window, as if they were approaching the moon.
That's a bit handy, isn't it?
Isn't it
They had all that in place. Well, let's go to another clip now, because I think we've got a lot to go through, because it's really exciting stuff, this. So now we're going to go to clip 2, the moving clip 2, please.
Dubbed this the jump salute. When the astronaut reaches the peak of his jump, his colleague takes a snap with the Hasselblad stills camera. Let's ignore the reasons as to why such a small jump in the much reduced 1/6 gravity of the moon, and continue instead with the discontinuities revealed by these images. This is the resulting Hasselblad photograph of that event. The most significant difference between these two images of the same action is that in the still photo there's a triangle of fabric that should be absolutely secure and motionless that has flapped up from the top of the plis, the personal life support system, as the astronaut jumps into the air. In the TV freeze frame, we can see this triangular flap is correctly fastened and is therefore not visible. It's not flapped up. If it had done so, it would be very obvious in this rear view, the TV image. You can see the size and detail of the triangular flap from this view of the top of the plis.
Well, that was an interesting clip as well, wasn't it?
Indeed. That was, again, an indication, as what I was saying earlier, that the videoing, which we saw there from behind the astronaut, that was the video film, and the photograph taken by the second astronaut also in the clip, was supposed to be done at the same time.
And they don't match.
And they don't
obviously
match.
They don't match. I mean, I think that's a given, isn't it, really?
They don't match, and in fact, if you look at the picture of the astronaut jumping, the photo is that there's one photograph only taken of that jump. You would expect there to be lots, because when you've tried to take a photograph of somebody jumping here on Earth, you know, you get kids jumping around, you want to get them jumping, you take lots of pictures to make sure you get one that works. And on the moon, they did one.
My understanding is that the Hasselblad cameras they used didn't have a viewfinder, were fixed on their chest, and used colour reversal film, which means you have to expose it absolutely correctly, with no light meters.
No light meters.
So you think, as you say, that perhaps they would have taken more than one shot.
They would have. And also, it's amazing how many times they don't cut somebody's head off. Now, have you tried taking a photograph without the viewfinder?
No, I haven't actually.
You can do it. I mean, people do take photographs without viewfinders.
Yes.
But you occasionally get things wrong.
They won't all be right, will they? They won't all be beautiful.
These Hasselblad cameras did not have automatic focus. They did not have automatic exposure. You had to get the composition absolutely right, and you had to use your hands. Bear in mind they are in armoured gauntlets, which is what a spacesuit has, to get the focus right. Yes. And you can't see the shutter button from inside the spacesuit because it's on the front of the camera. and you don't know if you've taken a picture anyway, because you can't hear anything.
Yeah. So, I mean, looking at this dispassionately, it seems to me that if it can be demonstrated that there's one, even just one example where it's quite clearly faked, then the whole pack of cards tumbles.
Exactly.